This week on The Harbor, we have an incredible young woman by the name of Claire. She's 20 years old, and she is the founder of the Clarity Project. She's been featured on things like CNN, ABC, The Huffington Post, 17 Magazine. She also has an epic YouTube channel that you can and should subscribe to. And so today, Claire, I just want to talk about your story and who you are and the amazing things that you're doing. And so thank you so much, first of all, for being on our show. And
I'm so honored.
Yeah, so tell me a little bit about just your story and a little bit of what you've had to overcome.
So I was born with something called cystic fibrosis, which a lot of people don't know about. Possibly high schoolers do because we're all forced to take biology. And so anytime you learn about like the, what is it called, the Punnett square or like genetics, you always learn about CF. But what it is a genetic disease that causes an overload of mucus to accumulate in your body. And that mucus causes kind of a ripple effect of problems throughout your life. So cystic fibrosis is progressive, meaning that as you get older, it gets worse. And it's also terminal, meaning I was born with a really short life expectancy. So around 10 years old was the lifespan of CFers with my mutation when I was born. Then it moved to around 13, then 16 to 18, then 19, now mid-20s, and I just had my 20th birthday. So it's something that I've always lived with and I've always had kind of a really close relationship to, because you have to spend a good quarter of your life in the hospital. You know, I've had 30 and counting surgeries, because the last time I counted, I was like 15, and I've had a bunch since then. Wow. I'm on around 50 medications a day. Some are pills, some are shots, some are inhaled. I do like 3 hours of breathing treatment. So something that's really time and energy consuming. And the thing about CF, and I think the thing for me that I've kind of really made like my whole identity around, and I don't even really know how it happened, but as much as having CF has been really painful and really hard, I've also been able to do a lot of really beautiful things in my life that I'm incredibly proud of. And I've been able to travel the world and be a public speaker, and I run a nonprofit and I help other people with cystic fibrosis, and I get to help with hospitals and changing the way that doctors treat patients and all that kind of stuff. And so I've just been really incredibly lucky in my life. And I think that something I've kind of made my whole mission about is talking about how you can be sick, you can be suffering, you can be in pain, and you can still make something of your life. You can still be proud of your life. You can still be proud of yourself and do something with your, with your experience. Because really human experience is the most valuable tool we have. It doesn't matter whether it's a good experience or a bad experience, you still get something from it. So that's like the gist of my story. And there's probably a lot of other things that I'm totally skimming over, but I think that's all you need to know.
All right, so tell me, you started a YouTube channel because you wanted to, there's a whole host of reasons probably, but tell me about your YouTube channel and just like what you talk about and what you show people.
Initially, I was just trying to humanize people who are sick, because there's not, growing up for me, something that I think is important that a lot of people don't think about, if you're not someone who's raised around someone who's sick or raised as someone who's sick, is that there's not very many like role models. You know what I mean? Like I didn't really know anyone growing up who was sick, who was also doing things in their life. You know what I mean? The only kind of sick people I ever saw were very kind of sterilized and boxed in and were, on Make-A-Wish commercials or St. Jude commercials. Or,
right.
Like I didn't see, you know what I mean? And there's the occasional public speaker, you know what I mean, who would tell you could achieve anything. And that was awesome. That was great. But it wasn't enough. They weren't transcending their illness. You know what I mean? They weren't more than that. And so I thought maybe I can kind of humanize people who are sick in a way. You know what I mean? Just talk about it, be real about it, be real about death, be real about all of that stuff. And also just be me and be like a weird person. You know what I mean?
It's almost like if you find that thing you love to do, it makes going to school worth it. It makes getting a job worth it. It makes going to college worth it. It makes paying attention to your surround. It makes investing in other people worth it. And so,
right.
Sick or not, it's probably, I hear you saying it's really important to have this thing that you love to do, because that's what gets you out of the bed in the morning and gives you a passion and a purpose.
Exactly.
And so what's yours? Like what's your ultimate, like what's your thing, your passion, your purpose, your hope? What is that?
There's such a feeling that if we're not perfect, or if we're not what we think we should be, or our lives aren't what we think that they should look like, that we have nothing valuable to give, which is just such a backwards way of being taught. Because I think the truth is, and if you look throughout all of human history, right, the people that have the most to give are not people that had normal, like, happy, sweet lives, right? I mean, like,
Right.
if you look at artists and musicians, they really, really deeply suffered throughout their life. And that's where the beauty came from. That's where, you know what I mean? That's where all of their art came from, and all of you know what I mean? Every single gift you have really does come from the pain and suffering you've been through, which sounds corny and it sounds like something, you know what I mean, you'd read in some inspirational quote book, but it's true, and on a really practical level, because what I had went through, I knew exactly what it felt like to have CF and not to have support. And so I knew exactly what needed to be done to help people.
Wow.
And that no one else would have known. So I kind of just applied myself to that. And that's what I've done for the past 6 years, has really been finding a way to give back, and not in a corny way, but in a, like, because it was the only thing I had. It was the only thing I had to give, was this experience of being sick, and how to make it better, how to make it less isolating, less frustrating, less stuck.
Absolutely.
So that's kind of my passion, as completely dorky as that sounds.
No, it's inspiring. Not a lot of 13-year-olds are starting nonprofits trying to help the world, and so that's a pretty incredible thing.
True.
I think most people who have a terminal illness or are sick have a totally reasonable excuse to not have any hope. But you have a ton of hope, and you're not only do you have hope, but you're trying to give others hope, which is even more inspiring. And so that word hope, when I hear it, I think about a person like you who's full of it. You're full of hope, and you're full of love, and you're full of joy. Where does that come from, and how important is it to find that even in the midst of suffering and in the midst of a terminal illness?
Well, I think something that's interesting, for me at least, is growing up, I mean, some of the most really beautiful and happy moments of my life, like just funny, simple, happy moments, happened while I was in the hospital. And not like because anyone was trying really hard to make it like better and to make the best of a bad situation. Like, it was just, I got to be like a kid in a room by myself with like tons of art supplies, and invite friends over and like do whatever and order like tons of like junk food. And you know what I mean? Like, it was just fun. I really genuinely enjoyed my childhood, and not like in spite of being sick. I just enjoyed it. And I would always, every single time I'd have to talk to anyone or someone would come to visit me, the first thing they'd say is that they're so sorry for me, and they're so sorry that I'm going through what I'm going through. And it started to kind of lodge this notion in the back of my mind that something was really deeply wrong in my life, and that I should feel bad, that I should feel hopeless, and that I should feel sad. And I think the point there is that there's this deep notion and narrative around people that are sick that all you should be fighting for is getting healthy. And once you're healthy, once you have that, then you can live your life, right? But that's all that's ever talked about when you're a sick person, is how do we get you healthy? How do we get you better? And the truth is, with CF, you're never going to get better, right? It's terminal. So until there's a miracle cure, you're going to die before you're ever healthy. So there I was thinking, okay, everyone's talking about getting me better, but I might never be better. So what does that mean? I'm never going to have a life, And when I got to be around 12 years old, that was when it really, like, I just had like a huge breakdown. It was like a year-long breakdown of just feeling completely hopeless. Like how was I going to be able to enjoy life if I didn't have that thing, if I didn't have health, if I wasn't normal, if I wasn't what everyone else deemed as having a good life, right? If I didn't have that. So I think that from that personal experience, from having gone through that, my advice for people, and how I kind of got to the place where I am now, where I'm really comfortable being sick, and I have a life that I'm so like grateful for. Like, I have my own apartment in Venice Beach. I get to travel the world doing public speaking and like making a living off of that, which is just mind blowing. Like, people pay me to speak. Like, I don't even know how that happened. I have a dog and a best friend that I love who cooks for me all the time. Like, I'm so lucky, and that has nothing to do with CF. You know what I mean? That's not because I overcame some problem. It's because I learned how to use CF. I learned how to use that experience and make something and give something. And the reason I talk about being lucky and feeling like I have a really, really beautiful life isn't to brag, even though it like probably sounds like that, and I so don't mean it that way. It's to show that I'm someone who is in a lot of pain most of the time. I don't have myself together at all. I have not fixed my problems. I have not gotten healthy. I've not changed any of that. I am who I am. I'm a mess, and I'm probably always going to be a mess. But I still have something to give. And that's what makes my life worth living, and that's what gives me hope. And I think that that's something so simple because we all are alive. We all feel those depths of emotions and those heights of emotions, and we know what it feels like to be alive, and that means that we know what it feels like to make and to create and to do something, right? And a lot of the way that life is set up is so brilliant when you really start to think about it, because the truth is you don't have to fix yourself. You don't have to be perfect. You just have to start doing things, and you'll slowly work through your own problems as you go through life. You know what I mean? The more you do, the more you'll learn about yourself, the more you'll understand yourself, and the more and more and more you'll start to feel like confident in yourself. You'll feel like you actually have something to give, and you'll realize it doesn't matter. All the other stuff doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if you have good grades. It doesn't matter if you're, you know what I mean, what you think you should be. You know what I mean? It just matters what you're giving to the world. And everyone has something really, really beautiful to give. I genuinely believe that. So that's my super, super long-winded answer.
No, it's incredible. I think you have a perspective that most of us can't come from, and I think that you being willing to share it with such optimism and hope is really inspiring and super incredible. And I think hearing your story, my hope is that kids recognize that we all have something to give, and when we start chasing a feeling or a thought or an emotion that we're never going to be enough is when we start to feel hopeless. But recognizing that you have something to give where you're at today
regardless
is what gives us hope and is what should get us out of bed in the morning. And so Claire, you're incredible. You're an amazing person and super inspiring. And I can't thank you enough for taking some time out of your day to share your story with us. And so
of course.
I hope everybody that watches this goes and follows your YouTube channel. Quick shout out. What is your YouTube channel?
My YouTube channel is The Clarity Project. And then you can also go search Claire's Place Foundation, which is my nonprofit.
Thank you so much. You're an incredible person, and I really appreciate your time.
Thank you so much. It's such an honor. I hope everyone got something out of it.
I'm sure they did.
Chit-chatting.